Chapter 8. Anger. Anger may vary all the way from rage to mild resentment. It includes revenge, outrage, indignation, fury, jealousy, vindictiveness, spite, hatred, contempt, wrath, argumentativeness, hostility, sarcasm, impatience, frustration, negativity, aggression, violence, revulsion, meanness, rebellion, explosive behavior, agitation, abusiveness, abrasiveness, smoldering, sullenness, pouting, and stubbornness. Know anybody like that? Like I've just got like one or two of those traits, maybe like hit the whole list. I don't know. So these variations of anger are well exemplified by the daily news on television. Anger may come up about the technique of surrender itself. Anger that anger that one is expected to let go of feeling that in the past have been valued. Anger at the fear of loss, anger at the feelings in general, anger at feeling that does not relinquish immediately. Like we sometimes when we're conscious enough, we get frustrated over being frustrated, and then like so that's lack of acceptance. So you just kind of accept and surrender to the anger. So just sometimes you're angry just to be filled with anger. It could be like something you ate or didn't eat, high sugar diet, caffeine, nicotine, drugs, alcohol, so it can bring on that feeling of, and the mind just backs it up, goes back to your past, boom, here you go, now we're angry. Now, there is a lot of energy in anger. Therefore, we may actually feel energized when we are irritated or angry. All right, gonna interject right there. Now, I had an anger problem when I was younger. I was a fat kid, lost the fat, worked out, turned into a bully, and then I chilled out in my 20s. It was just, I was angry. Angry. There's a whole bunch of stories in that. But basically at work, one of my last jobs before I had like a wake up call, my nickname was AJ, Angry Jeff. I did not know of this nickname until like after like I changed, and then they'd all bring it up and laugh. They're like, AJ, and I'm like, good thing, good thing I got a grip on it now. But so a person that I went to and just like asked for help, I was bawling my eyes out. Like I was down to 120 pounds, just angry as fuck. And I was 25 at the time. And they gave me two books. One, Making Anger Your Ally, or Anger is Your Ally. And the other one is How to Win and Influence People. And make friends. So the angry one was like that was just a fucking eye opener. And it was because my whole life people, like especially teens, everything else, they're like, oh, you have an anger problem. And it's like I didn't really disagree, but I didn't know how angry I was because I carried it for so long. I thought that shit was normal, because again, most of my life like that. Now see, like there's three type of people who suffer or handle anger differently. Okay, there's the exploder. I am the exploder. It's, or it used to be, I'm sure it's still there. The exploder, because they feel so wronged, they just explode. But the way they acted and the things they said, maybe the shit they broke, text they sent, whatever, it's like because of their actions, that's what they get called out on, therefore their message is wrong, and then guilt and shame comes back, so the anger just builds more and more and more and getting reactive. So that's the exploder. Underhanded anger. Now I have underhanded anger as well. Like I'm sarcastic, I love sarcasm, but that's again a form of underhanded anger. But I hated people. Like I couldn't stand people that suffered from underhanded anger. So like at work, people would screw with me who were jealous of me, and they would just didn't like me, whatever. What's there not to like? It So they would just screw with me, but it was like and I'm the type of guy, I'm up front, like just say it to my face, man. And it was like, and so when you catch them on something or almost catch them, they just gaslight you. No, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like you're just getting triggered over and over and over again. But they suffer from underhanded anger. They don't have the balls. They don't have the fortitude. You know what I'm saying? The gall, the gusto to say it. Just fucking say it. But they have to get that anger out. So they fuck with you. They talk shit about you behind your back. And that's how they get it out. So when they're actually being nice to you, they fucked with you over there. They saw how angry and upset you were. So they got it out. It's just like pushing you and telling you off. So then when you go back to them, they're actually kind of like being nice because they got the anger out. And you're just like, you're so two-faced. But again, underhanded anger. And then there's the other one is just complete denial. In the book I was reading, I remember he was referring to a lady that would come to see him, and he was just like she was like, no, I don't get angry. She was in her 30s and her organs were shutting down. But and she had so much stuff going on in her life. She should be angry. Like she should feel it. It was complete denial, and the shit just ate her up on the inside. Dr. Candace Pert has proven pretty much that our body is the subconscious mind, thought and feeling, but mostly feeling. So let us move on. One of the tricks people learn is to move up quickly from apathy and grief into anger, and then jump from anger into pride, and then on into courage. In anger, there is an energy for action. This results in doing this in the world. You know, when the have-nots of the world become energized by desire and move up to anger, like, I'm fucking gonna do something about this. Now, when you're angry, from the book I read way back when we are angry, we are stronger, we're smarter, all our senses are heightened. Like we are focused. Like you'll see an athlete score a big goal and not even crack a smile because they're focused. They're in the now. They're just like, they're doing this. They're using the anger as just what it should be, moving into courage, moving into doing. So yeah. So that anger moves them into actions necessary to fulfill their dreams for a better life. The quantity of suppressed anger in the population can be verified quickly by seeing how popular violence is in the media, where the viewers are presented with a vicarious experience of letting out their anger in the forms of beatings, shootings, stabbings, lynchings, killings of various bad guys. We typically feel so much guilt about anger that we find it necessary to make the object of our anger wrong. So like if you're angry, you're wrong, no matter what, because you're angry, you're just not handling your shit right. So that we can say our anger is justified. So you have to be really wrong so I can get this angry because I don't know how to handle my emotions. Few are the persons who can take responsibility for their own anger and just say, I'm angry because I'm full of angriness. I learned this shit in my late 30s and 40s. Don't learn this as early as possible, man. Just feel an emotion because you feel it. Your mind will try and justify it, going to the past, going to the future, everything else. But sometimes if you just surrender to it, being like, I'm feeling this way, your mind will usually tell you, being like, well, we need to eat, we need to do this, we need to do that. You know what I'm saying? So like, just sometimes you're just angry because you're filled with angry. Sometimes you're sad because you're filled with sadness. You know, sometimes you're guilty because you're filled with guilty. It's usually your subconscious talking to you, and you might want to surrender to that and forgive yourself. Anyways, using anger positively. It is common for people to repress their anger, aggression, and inner hostility. They view it as an unpleasant, undignified, and even a moral failure or spiritual setback. They do not realize that repressed anger is nonetheless the energy of anger, and if not acknowledged and worked through it, it will have deleterious consequences to the health and overall progress. The intention behind anger is negative, and it will have similar consequences even if it is not expressed. So we're supposed to feel anger, but not carry anger. Big difference. You know, like I can get angry in a moment. In a moment's notice, all depends. But I don't live in anger. My thoughts aren't filled with angry people, you know, whatever. It's just that if I'm dealing with something, yeah, I can get irritated, I could get angry and whatever. So a helpful approach to view the energy of anger positively and to use it to fire up your ambitions and our actions in a useful way. So usually it's kind of fear, like I hate what's going on, whatever, and I fear that I'm never going to have a good life or whatever the situation is. And then it's like, Then anger comes, and it's like that anger in that moment is supposed to take you pretty much just to courage. He's talking about pride. You can skip fucking pride, go right to courage, because you're going to do something about it. You don't care what people think. You don't care even if you fail. You're just so angry. I'm fucking doing this. And then when you do, you calm down. You're like, oh, okay. And the fear's gone, and then you're in a higher vibration because you achieved a goal. You achieved some purpose. You know what I'm saying? You made fucking change. I'm getting a little off topic. Yes. So instead of getting angry, for instance, let's say we are angry at our boss. We feel resentful. He never seems to acknowledge our abilities or our efforts, but we know it's unwise to express anger and resentment. It would very likely result in the loss of our job, or at least bring on the continued resentment of the boss. At best, the expression of anger would result in a tacky situation. Instead, we can make the decision to use that energy in a constructive way on our own behalf. It can be inspiration for us to create a project that, because of its excellence, proves our point. It might be the energy for us to move up and out of the situation if the job's unsatisfactory. We can utilize that energy to create new job opportunities or find a better job, form a committee, improve our employment situation, start a union, whatever we think would benefit for our personal goals. But using the anger to talk shit about Barbara because she pissed you off the 2 Christmas parties ago, bad use of anger. Bad. You're just creating bad karma, bad juju. So in personal relationships, the same opportunity exists. The anger can be utilized to inspire us to improve our communication skills, take a course on interpersonal relationships, or enroll in a self-improvement program. The anger can inspire us to a rededication to put forth a greater clarity and effort and to actually do a better job. In this way, the situation can result in recommitment. It can inspire us to look within ourselves and relinquish all the negative feelings via acceptance. So instead of being mad about it, we can accept it, because you'll just take that anger and it'll lead you into action because you accept it. You accept that you're angry. You accept that you can't accept this shit anymore. So it's time for change. That's really what you're accepting, that fear and that anger. Self-sacrifice. There are many sources of anger. We have already mentioned that very often a complex of angry feelings is connected with fear. And the anger disappears when we let go of the fear. Another source of anger is that of pride, and especially that aspect of pride called vanity. Frequently, it is in our personal pride that fuels and propagates the anger. One source of pride is connected with self-sacrifice. If our relationships with others are associated with our small self in the form of sacrifice, like I did this for you, then if you feel your actions to somebody you care about is a sacrifice, then you're investing in future anger. I wrote that in at the bottom. Yeah, because we're building ourselves up for later anger. Because you know what it did for you, and you didn't even recognize it. All ego bullshit. Yes, building up for later anger. Because the other person is usually unaware of our sacrifice and is therefore unlikely to fulfill our expectations. So people in relationships, I've noticed, I always ask people when they're bitching about something, about their partner. I'm like, is your relationship in the ER? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, expectations. Fuck. What's the R? And recognition. There we go. So expectations and recognition. When we step into relationships, consciously or subconsciously, we have expectations on how the relationship to go, what the role should be. And, you know, like, if I do this, then you should recognize me for this. And if I wear this, then we're totally doing it that night. Like, a whole bunch of stuff. So, but if it's not, then we're emotionally blackmailing ourselves. Because if I expect you to do something and you don't do it, then I'm feeling hurt. But then I project that hurt onto you and make you feel shit for making me feel that hurt because I had expectations. And then there's recognition. You know, like partner comes home, tired, but you know, the other partner was doing this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and like that person doesn't even acknowledge it, care, or whatever, because they're so wrapped up in themselves. So that, like, not getting the recognition of what you're trying to put forth in the relationship starts to chip away at it, and then it goes again. The anger's already built from the expectations. So is your relationship in the ER. So you manage your expectations and manage the recognition. And if you need recognition, it's your partner. Fucking ask for it. Be like, yo, man, I kind of need some love right now. Can you recognize what I'm trying to do for you? Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. Love you. We move on. Ooh. So, an example of this comes from a day in the life of a typical traditional marriage. The wife spends the entire day working hard at cleaning the house, meticulously looking after the plants, bringing in the flowers, rearranging some furniture, and doing all she can to make the house look beautiful. When the husband comes home, he doesn't say a word about the house or even seems to notice. Instead, he's exhausted from a day at work and he recounts its various trials and tribulations. But meanwhile, you're just like, in his mind, he is thinking of all the self-sacrifices he has made, the irate customers, the arduous drive-through commuter traffic, the irritable boss, and the pressure of the deadlines. He's thinking of all that he has done for his wife and his family at a sacrifice, and she should recognize. While he is thinking of all the hardship, she is feeling a mounting resentment that he hasn't acknowledged her for her efforts. And she goes back in her mind all over the sacrifices she made that day. She could have gone out for lunch with friends. She could have finished reading the book that she was enjoying. She could have watched her favorite program on television. But no. Instead, she did all this for him. And now he is making no comment on the results of her efforts. As both harbor their grudges and resentments and frustrations, their inner anger mounts. And that shit's gotta come out sometime, somewhere. It expresses as coolness and detachment. Like, what's the problem? Nothing. Is everything fine? Yeah. No, it's not. Hug them hard. It is expressed as coolness and detachment as they escape into television for the evening and go to bed silently to brood over their grievances. This is such a typical American home scene that it is almost banal to repeat it here. Yet it speaks of its learning value to us. We can examine it, try to unravel this decline of a relationship. That which we want, desire, and insist upon from another person is felt by them as pressure. They will therefore unconsciously resist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate being told what to do something, but I like doing it. You know, so I got like, in my 40 years, I've found good balance. Like, you know, it's not all about like, don't, you know, to tell me I try and do shit. But sometimes I need that like 2 to 6 month reminder. So, in the above example, both persons are looking for acknowledgement. Because as soon as you recognize someone's feelings, like if you want to diffuse an argument real fast, partner comes in the room pissed off, start thinking real fucking fast on what you might have done, whether you think it's irrational or not, whether the day they might have had, start empathizing like a champ, and then just start spitting it out. Oh, baby, you must be tired from this. You must be angry about this. I'm so sorry I didn't do this, blah, blah, blah. And just like hammer it. Recognize every feeling. And at the end of it saying, I'll try and be a better person and I love you. And see how that rolls. Because you can't really argue with someone who's recognizing and empathizing with your feelings. If you are, then you really need to learn as left. All right. So each side feels pressured and consequently resistant. The resistance is because pressure is always felt by us as a denial of our choice. It is felt emotional blackmail. The unconscious formula goes, give me what I want or I will punish you by withdrawal, like I'm holding back the love, anger, pouting, sulking, and resentment. We all resent feeling emotionally blackmailed. Like, babe, like, come on, that was like last week. Why the fuck are you giving me the cold shoulder tonight? Oh, I just had a flashback. I'm so sorry. We all know the resistance we feel when we become aware that somebody is fishing on a compliment. Like, did you see what I was wearing today? And the same resistance goes on unconsciously as well as consciously. Like some people just don't even know why they're doing it. But instead of giving them a hard time, give them the fucking attention. And if it's too much, then you really got to assess the whole relationship. But don't hold out, man. Just like talk, man. When we are motivated by self-sacrifice, we are pressuring the other person. Do you know what I did for you? Why aren't you doing this for me? Like that. Yeah, nothing turns me on more than guilt. Even if we force an acknowledgement, it'll be a disgruntled one. A forced compliment does not satisfy. Part of the anger here arises from the pride of self-sacrifice. We have a certain secret vanity about what we're doing for others. And we want that recognition. And our pride of achievement makes us vulnerable to anger when our sacrifice is not recognized. So you went through all this hard work and no one said fucking shit. So now your day's ruined because it's all dependent on other people recognizing what you did. Now, I'm sure he's going to mention in the book, but when you come from a place of love, just being like, I want to do this, I don't give a shit who notices, good things happen. Try it. So the way to offset this anger is to acknowledge and relinquish the pride. Surrender our desire for the pleasure of the self-pity and instead view our efforts on behalf of the others as gifts. I like giving gifts. Time and energy is my gift. We can experience the joy of being generous with others, and it has its own rewards. Acknowledgement. One of the great secrets of relationship is acknowledgement. The behavior of others towards us always includes a hidden gift, even if that behavior appears negative. There is something in it for us. Very often that something appears in the form of a signal to us to become more aware. Let's say, for example, that somebody calls us stupid. Our natural response is one of anger. I'm not stupid, you're fucking stupid. We can use this energy of that anger consciously. What is that person asking me to become more aware of? That I'm insecure, that I might be stupid. That's pretty much it. If we ask ourselves the question, we may come to the realization that we are being self-centered and we're being uncaring and we're failing to acknowledge them and we're not being conscious and aware of what was going on in the relationship. Oh, that kind of more aware of. If we constantly follow this procedure, we will come to the awareness that everyone in our life is acting as a mirror. They are really reflecting back to us what we have failed to acknowledge. So usually if somebody tries to give you a piece of advice and you don't want to hear it, or you think they're wrong, they're right, or you wouldn't have the feeling that they are wrong. It's kind of like the change. What if you're willing to look at it? Because we always go home after a conversation or get off and be like, oh my God, they're so wrong here and they're so wrong here. And you're getting worked up and you're like, well, fuck them anyways. But as that anger builds, that's your ego deflecting, being like, we don't look at this. We don't look at this. But this time you can be like, where were they right? What didn't they say that like I should be doing or I could be doing and everything else? And then like, boom, your consciousness just grew. You're now willing, instead of deflecting a feeling or projecting it, you're like, no, I'm looking at this head on. Okay, cool. That's something that cannot, like, so the next time someone says that about you, you can be like, yeah, I don't like that about myself. You know, like you might feel a little bloop instead of like, I know what you know what I'm saying. So yeah, so they're forcing us to look at what needs to be addressed. What aspect of our smaller self needs to be relinquished? This means that we have constantly let go of our pride in order to undo anger, so that we can be grateful for the continual opportunities of growth with which we are presented in the course of everyday experience. It is that simple. To do this, we have to resist the temptation to indulge in making ourselves and others wrong. If we see and look at the small self aspect of ourselves, we will see that making ourselves and others wrong is one of our favorite activities. Example, politics and the media. This is because the small self is ignorant of better ways to accomplish our goals. You don't have to break somebody down, you can connect. It does not see the alternative, which is choosing to change a situation out of free choice. One way we force ourselves out of unsatisfactory situations is by making ourselves or the situation wrong. And instead of merely choosing to find a better job, for instance, our smaller self makes the job, the boss, and the fellow workers wrong. Because the picture of wrongness, the situation now becomes intolerable, and we are forced to change it. How much easier would it have been had we just simply chosen to move on to a better situation? However, because of our sense of obligation, guilt is very often the block to a simpler way. In other words, because of what has benefited us in a situation, we feel guilty about leaving it. So the unconscious ingeniously has created the whole mechanism of wrongness to force us out of dead-end situations. This often happens in interpersonal relationships when we feel that we have to make the other person wrong in order to justify leaving them. Resorting to the mechanism of wrongness is simply a denial of our own freedom to choose. One source of anger stems from the the unacknowledged acts of love that we have expressed to others. Love in this context means that the everyday simple forms of lovingness that go on in every human relationship, from the form of thoughtfulness, consideration, polite gestures, encouragement, and providing. Very often, internal dialogue can go on for years about resentment over other person's lack of appreciation for our feelings about them. This is so far, it must be the case for others as well. There are people, therefore, in our life who are walking around with an endless mental stream of thoughts about us. I'm sure a few therapists know my name. Having to do with our lack of appreciation of their feelings for us. This whole arena of anger can be offset and prevented when we see the enormous value of simply acknowledging the gestures of others towards us, even if it's small. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. This means to acknowledge all of their communications to us. For instance, if a friend calls us on the phone, we thank them for calling us. The reason for doing this is that it makes the other person feel complete and secure with us. It is acknowledgement that of their value and in our lives, and everyone feels pleased when we acknowledge their value. Come on, like that, you can't argue that. By this simple mechanism of acknowledgement, it is possible within a matter of days to transform all of one's relationships in a rather dramatic way. This acknowledgement does not have to go on in the outer world, but can take place within oneself. People who internalize stuff. As we examine our relationships, we can ask ourselves, what have I failed to acknowledge in those with whom I have daily contact? I wouldn't put it that way, but it'd be like, who have I pissed off? Who doesn't like me? Like, and why? And it's like, it's not their fault when you're like, no, it's my fault. Like, look at it from that lens. Have fun with that. It is a very valuable experience to pick someone in our life who, in our view, is critical towards us, and now within ourselves begin to look at how we have failed to acknowledge them. We surrender all of our negative feelings about them, and we begin to give them credit, affirming their value to us. This lies mostly in parents, man. Their value may simply be that our spur to our emotional growth and development. The nagging spouse or the scowling neighbor is trying to say something. Almost always in this sort of a situation, such persons are not feeling acknowledged for the contribution that they are making to our life. And once their value to us has been acknowledged, the nagging stops until the next time. But then you accept whether you want to stay with that or not. Doesn't matter if the sex is good. Expectations. When we stop pressuring others with our expectations, we create an opening for them spontaneously to respond positively to us. When we stop pressuring others with our expectations, letting be, accepting, we create an opening for them to spontaneously respond positively to us because they don't feel our defensiveness, so they can just be themselves, like true good selves. We can, in a prophylactic move, offset resentments by shifting what we have done for others from the level of sacrifice to the level of just a loving gift. We can then acknowledge ourselves for this move and drop our expectations, which will dissolve the resistance in others. A simple experiment illustrates this shift. There was a man who brought back 2 new shirts from Mexico. The new shirts were of a totally different design and the kind of clothes he was accustomed to wearing. The first day that he decided to wear one of the shirts, he noticed he had an inner expectation and sort of a subtle pride in doing something new and different. However, instead of surrendering the pride, he decided to keep it. Like, look at my shirt, man. I just got this on vacation. Yeah, let me strut with this. That is, he purposefully didn't use the letting go technique to surrender to the pride. Like, you know, I'm wearing it because I like it. That's it. I don't care what you think. And simply let it be there. He wanted to see what would happen, how people would respond. That day, he proudly wore the new shirt, and sure enough, nobody even mentioned it. Despite the fact that he was totally different from his usual attire, it must have really stood out, but there was not a single comment. When he went home, he had to laugh at how true was the entrepreneur Robert Ringer's term for that kind of situation as boy-girl theory. Boy wants girl. Therefore, girl is disinterested in boy. As soon as boy is no longer interested in girl, girl now wants boy. The next morning, he decided he would wear the other new shirt. But this time, he surrendered all of his vanity and his expectations of being noticed. He let go of that little pride that he was doing something new and something different. And he acknowledged the love of all his friends and the important part they played in the happiness of his life. By the time he got through the letting go process, he was totally surrendered on wearing the shirt. He knew he was totally surrendered because it was okay if they noticed the new shirt. It was okay if they didn't. That day was suddenly like a new shirt day. Almost every person he met commented on the new shirt, asked him where he had gotten it, and he spent the day getting lots of attention. This experiment humorously makes the point we get what we want when we stop insisting on it. Now, if you're insisting on it, that means you're creating a void. Psychically, I do not have this, so I'm not happy. I can't be grateful. Putting a block to it. Expectation of others is a form of emotional blackmail. Again, expectations is a form of emotional blackmail. We can feel our resistance when others pull from certain emotional goods from us. We can get away from being emotionally blackmailed by looking at how we do it with others. And then we can let go of wanting to manipulate their emotional responses towards us. It's basically real simple. I'm going to hold back the love until I get what I want. And if I don't get what I want, trouble's just going to brew. Another way of preventing anger is by making a decision within oneself no longer to accept invalidation from others or the small aspect of oneself. This decision can be in the form of a firm declaration. I will no longer accept invalidation for myself or others. When this is coupled with a habit of acknowledging all that is positive within ourselves and others, relationships rapidly change. Their potential sources of anger have been removed. Again, it is that simple. Chronic resentment. Know anybody like that? Chronic unrecognized anger and resentment reemerge in our life as depression, which is anger directed against oneself. If pushed further into the unconscious, it can reemerge as psychosomatic illnesses. Migraine headaches, arthritis, hypertension are frequently cited as examples of chronic suppressed anger. I can back that up. So I had like some suppressed anger working through in lockdown, and my neck was getting all rosacea. My head was just looked like a pimple ready to pop. And it was very unconscious. So a lot of surrendering, a lot of bad days weren't fun. And finally it just came out. I got triggered. I'm like, okay, here it is. And instead of acting on someone or like smacking somebody, I just felt it. And it came out, and my neck, just my face, everything just went back to normal. My blood pressure dropped. It was like just from surrendering to the anger and figuring out why. Then you accept it and forgive it and you move on. So these symptoms are very often alleviated as people learn how to let go of their inner anger. For example, in one study, the blood pressure measurements of the participants were taken before and after they received instruction on how to let go of negative emotion, as left. All the people with hypertension showed drops in their blood pressure, both systolic and diastolic. The upper and lower numerical readings. Oh, I shouldn't have read that. Once they started letting go of the emotional pressure that they had built up over the years, the Stanford University Forgiveness Project, love it, confirms the cardiac benefits of relinquishing anger and resentment. In the program, parents of children killed in the Protestant Catholic violence in Ireland learned how to let go of their bitterness toward the enemy. Measurements of their cardiac health and physical stamina showed significant improvement. And that's from a book, Luskin, 2003. Forgiveness healed their hearts. Literally. That's going to be my next chapter, forgiveness. Oh, as we have said before, with muscle testing, we can prove instantly that anger and resentment have deleterious, damaging effect on the body. Straight up it does, man. I've got stories upon stories to tell you about when you let go of an emotion, how, better you feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, just better. Anyways. So with muscle tone on the body and emotions, energy flow on that synchronization of the brain hemispheres. So anger kills the angry person, not the so-called enemy. It's like you're mad at someone, angry, rageful at someone, And that's like drinking a bottle of poison, expecting it to affect them. And you don't know how to let it go, like without type of revenge, avenging, or something bad happening to them, like really bad. You are making yourself suffer from holding on to this anger, this toxicity. I teach how to forgive. Um, Yeah, so the mind would like us to think that there's such a thing as justifiable anger. So you're saying there's justifiable why I got to put my body into dis-ease, like discomfort, anger, pumping heart rate, tense muscles, you know, which takes the form of moralistic indignation. If we look at moralistic indignation, we will see that it is propped up by the vanity and pride. We like to think that we like to think how right we are in a situation and how wrong the other persons are. We get a passing cheap little satisfaction out of that. But our muscle testing proves that the cost is to our overall emotional and physical economy. The price we pay for chronic anger and resentment is sickness and premature death. Yay! And there's, guess what? There's no prize at the end. Like, it's not like you're going to die and God's going to be like, hey, you know you're fucking miserable your whole life? Guess what? No fucking prize. You're just like everybody else. So yeah. And is this worth the small satisfaction of being right? The cost that we are willing to pay in these kinds of circumstances is sometimes surprising. Let's say we have a situation in which we made a loan to someone who has never paid us back. We have a chronic resentment about it, and we meet that and when we meet that person socially, we say little as possible. Because if we get honest with ourselves, we will likely see that we are getting the satisfaction out of our being right and the other person being wrong. Fucking loser. In fact, we are enjoying it so much that a part of us really doesn't want him to pay off the debt, because then we would no longer be able to enjoy the secret pleasure of making him wrong. This was precisely true in a case involving several $100s. The inner decision was made on the part of the lender to be honest about all the little satisfactions of being right and making the other person wrong, and then to surrender on each one of these ego payoffs. Clearly, the ego payoffs were blocking the other person from repaying the loan. With continual surrender, the whole deal was totally let go of, and a shift was made of view of the loan as a gift. Admittedly, the other person had really needed the money. Why not simply see it as a gift and let go of the expectation of repayment? Only you'll feel better. Unless there's something you really wanted for $700. Now, instead of resentment, gratefulness is predominated because there had been the opportunity to help another human being in a moment of real need. Within 48 hours, a check arrived in the mail for the entire amount with a note of an apology for the delay in repayment. Well, let's not go that far, okay? But let's try and look at this as being like, well, like if I think about hating you, only I suffer, only me stressing me out. That's me not feeling peace. That's a moment I could be feeling peace, good, relaxed, but nope, I'm pissing myself off, and I'm blaming it out there. So the cycle will always continue because it's out there. No, it's in here. This experience and many like it demonstrate how we're all psychically connected. The internal position we hold about another person is forcing them to adopt a complementary defensive position. It is therefore not Pollyanna to forgive and forget, but a reasonable recognition of emotional realities. The interactions between human beings are determined by the configurations of the vibrational energies that their emotions are radiating into space. Now, if that's tough to believe, think about this, man. Negative people hang with negative people. Positive people hang with positive people. The only reason the two will mix may be because of work or family. Other than that, they don't vibe. Because as soon as you're like, hey man, how's it going? Life sucks, you know, it just sucks. And they're like, well, hey man, you could try this, you could do that. Don't worry, look at it, no, it won't work. It just sucks. And it's like, oh. Yeah, I just don't vibe with you, man. Nothing against you, just don't fucking vibe with you. I empathize with you because I've been on that level before, which I could get you off of, but we're not into that. So yes, the energy of the vibration and the thought form which is associated, creating a readable record, like on a feeling level, intuition, man, that's what we're going with. Although this common everyday experience is hardly news to most women, who in our society are characteristically more intuitive, mama always knows, it comes to of a shock and surprise to a large percentage of men. Not this man. In our society, men are characteristically left-brained and given to the reason of logic rather than intuition. 2 plus 2 is 22. Don't tell me how you feel about it. Which characterized by as the right brain function. As we continue to let go of negativity and bring about inner emotional healing, there's a greater balance between left and right brain function. You can let your imagination go without shooting it down yourself. You can dream a little without talking yourself out of it. It's good because you got more vibe. There's less anger pulling it back on a subconscious guilt, shame. I'll continue. The intuitive faculty is also available in men. They are often pleasantly surprised as they begin to recognize its emergence. This man was. It is satisfying and surprising to be able instantly to read a situation that was totally baffling to reason and logic. The ideal situation is to form a working hypothesis with intuition and then to use the reason and logic to check it out. This, of course, offsets the anger that arises from misunderstanding or miscalculation and increases the skill for mastery of emotions. You want to master your emotions, you come see me. Or you read this book over and over and over again. Another thing that dissipates anger is our mere willingness to relinquish it. It's just like, fuck it, I'm angry and it's not going anywhere. Usually, it'll usually just, you'll laugh it or it'll turn into tears or both. Just being honest. Willingness is our overall decision to find a better way to stop relying on anger and to move up to courage and acceptance. This willingness already starts the process of relinquishing the anger. Because on a feeling this, when you finally accept, you're creating a new conscious feeling in the body to remove that anger. And acceptance is like, there's a lot of peace, a lot of motivation in acceptance. So, yes, you are not angry, you are carrying anger. Anything you can observe, you are not. Digest that one. Willingness is our overall decision to find a better way to stop relying on anger and to move up to courage and acceptance. This willingness already starts the process of relinquishing anger. As students of the martial arts are well aware, anger indicates weakness and vulnerability. It is seen as a tool that we are handing to our opponents. We can see from muscle testing this is why so. The angry person has already lost half his muscle power and has therefore lost the split-second timing that is so decisive to victory in hand-to-hand combat. It is so prevalent in our society to include the propensity to anger as a male macho attribute. Don't talk to me about fucking emotions, eh? I have Italian in my family, so I'm allowed to do that. We hear people swelling with pride as they relate how they told that guy off. Oh, I used to get satisfaction on telling people off. Oh, yeah. And because I was a fat kid, so most of my life I had to have a sharp tongue because I couldn't back it up physically. And then when I could back it up physically for a while, that was fun. And I still had the sharp tongue. And then I couldn't back it up physically because I didn't want to go to jail as a father. So back to the sharp tongue, and then I learned about anger and shit. And here we are. So, where are we? Experiences. Where is it? Okay. So, it is so prevalent in our society to include them, male macho attribute. Now, we hear people swelling with pride as they relate how they told that guy off, and we can ask ourselves, who needs enemies? Isn't there enough negative influence in our life without adding one more? Especially when we look at the fact that all emotions generate a vibrational energy in the universe. Fuck the universe. It generates a vibrational energy in your body. Okay? Stress, you're creating that because you don't know how to fucking accept and forgive. Now, what is the point of our surrounding ourselves with negative thought forms about those views as enemies? Why go out of our way to hold on to them as enemies by stockpiling resentments and negativity in ourselves? Likely, when we review our own personal experiences, we will see that the effort involved in converting people we once considered enemies into friends brought gratification and later reward. And in most cases, they proved to be positive benefits in our life. We never know whom in a later chapter of the book of our life we're going to need as a friend. Now, here's the thing, if you think that's impossible because you hate Barbara's guts. Now, If there wasn't some level that you respected about Barbara, that means you care about Barbara's opinion. Like you care that Barbara's alive because you want to hate on her. But if Barbara recognized all her faults towards you or infractions, this and that, and recognized all your feelings, because you're a good person, you have no choice but to forgive Barbara, and that builds a connection because you can't hate, and because you had so much, you flipped the coin off the side of hate, you're now with love because it's that intense. So you actually secretly, when you hate somebody or angry at somebody, you actually give a fuck about them. Because like, when I was growing up, it was like I had some people that love me. I had some people that hate me. It might even still go on today. Who knows with the lockdown? But it's like it was always so cool, even if they hated me, because it's like if I met up with them, whatever, and I recognized maybe where like the reasons, I apologize, recognize their feelings. They're like, holy fuck, he's a good guy. Made a friend. It's the people who you just don't fucking care about. You're like, who? Those people don't like, you don't hate them, you don't love them, you just don't think about them. So it's just an awareness piece when you're hating on someone, be like, no, I hate them. You're technically just, you care about them. So look at that instead of stressing yourself out on defending how much you fucking hate them. Okay. We need to be aware that we have unwittingly become injustice collectors. The media reports are full of this form of chronic resentment. We see injustice collecting, and the international relations we're making the other nation wrong is actually a primary objective. We are unconsciously programmed to believe that injustice collecting is normal. Like if you've done wrong, gotta blow your ass up. Like, and if there's an injustice, someone has to pay. The atonement there has to be pain, not love, not forgiveness. You know? In contrast to this habitual pattern, which is destructive and weakening, the letting go technique frees us from keeping close account of the wrongs made against us. Our time and attention are freed up to see the beauty and the opportunity around us. Yes, there is darkness in life, but there's a lot of beauty in it too. Anger is binding, not freeing. It connects us to another person and holds them in our life pattern. We are stuck in the negative pattern until we let go of the energy of anger and its little payoffs of righteous indignation, feeling wronged, and the desire for revenge. All ego bullshit. It may not be exactly the same person who constantly recurs in your life, and if not that person, then others will appear to have the same quality that triggers our anger and resentment in the other person. And this will keep reoccurring until we finally handle our inner angriness. Nobody makes you angry. You make you angry. That's how you take your fucking power back, man. That's how you really being like, no, they pissed me off. No, I'm pissing me off. Why? Because of my beliefs on it. Okay, pride, anger, ego. Just like you work through it. That's called doing the work. But when you do, fucking shit triggers you less. And if the less shit that triggers you, on the flip side, more things you get enjoyment out of. More energy, more positivity. And then suddenly people with the quality disappear from our life. Like when you change your vibration, man, the right people leave and the right people come in. There's no wrongs. And yes, therefore, anger may force someone to be physically distant from us, but physically it binds them to us more closely until we fully relinquish the anger and resentment. Relinquishing anger brings us many benefits. We are free to experience emotional comfort and ease. Gratitude for the daily opportunities to grow and heal, mutual. Okay, it might not get that sappy, but you will become consciously aware of being like, holy fuck, I'm not angry today. Like you'll giggle at it, being like, oh, it's noon. I should have wanted to slap at least 3 people. 3 p.m. surprised I haven't stabbed someone. Like you will feel the difference because it'll be like you'll be conscious. You'll be like, oh my god, it's just not there. And if emotional pain's not there, then just joy is there, peace is there, gratitude's there. Like, yeah, sure, with your gratitude to grow and heal, sure, you can go with that too. But and it's like you're more caring without any strings attached. You're just being nice for the sake of being nice. You're not being nice because you're like, what will they think or whatever. You just don't give a fuck because you're happy. Improvement in health and more life energy. These breakthroughs allow us to move up to a more effective and effortless state of inner, I'm going to add this, emotional freedom. And that is the end chapter of anger. That was chapter 8. Now, letting go. Look, I've let this book out like 10 times it's come back to me, man. Like I've got shit highlighted, and it's just like, it's an amazing book for your emotions. And you got to remember, man, emotions, it's a theory. Everyone's got all their theories on what an emotion is, and I've got my own theories. It But this book, man, it teaches you how to just see it, feel it, and let it go. Like I said, uh, like Eckhart Tolle talks about it. Wayne Dyer talks about it. Like when it comes to, say, acceptance, surrender, or surrender to a higher power. Me, I am that higher power. I know it sounds cocky, but meaning I surrender to my own emotions. I surrender to my own feelings. If I'm angry, it is me making me angry. It's like that awareness. So I don't, like, now I have the power to sit in it, and it's once I'm conscious of it, I'm like, I know that anger's there. I accept it. I'm going to try and up my diet. Maybe I might even smoke a little more weed, maybe get some dopamine going so I can uncover and feeling, because your subconscious feelings are feelings. And when you surrender to them, then the mind can freely tell you all the stories that created it in the first place. And you will notice it that you never accepted it, forgave it, empathized with it, you name it. So, and it's in that moment, because you're getting that energy, that emotion out, and you're now accepting it and forgiving it, whether it be yourself, someone else, God, whatever it is, that pain now stops. So that means you go out into the world the next few days or forever and get less triggered. Like, you're less stressed. That is the price. Like, I hope I'm conveying this, because it's true. Like I'm a fucking dude talking about emotions. Like, today, my cousins were over, started talking about emotions, just making jokes, shutting it down. Like, they're in their 50s and they're old and whatever. But it was like, they're just set in their ways. But I was like, well, I keep waking up angry, And I was like, do you want to know why you're doing that? He's like, well, I know I am. He's like, I know it'll go away. I was like, how does it go away? He's like, just does. And I was like, but you don't know what's creating or causing it. Doesn't matter. I know it's going to go away. Oh, I see you might have learned something in school and whatever. I'm like, buddy, it's like I knew this shit before school. But it was like uncomfortable. People get uncomfortable with their emotions. So, but I think if I just kind of do it my way, like, I'm no Wayne Dyer, man. I know I'm no Deepak, but I do try and live life as, looking at all aspects, the mind, body, and soul, or the metaphysical. Take it all into consideration, but my one goal for me and for people in life is just to be happy. Doesn't matter what your situation is. Be happy. Be empowered. Don't give your fucking power away to people and situations, social media. Hold it within yourself. Anyways, thanks for watching. La 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 la.